Before you watch this video, I'll just quickly mention that I made the translation for this video, so if anything is wrong, that is on me, and yeah, with that being said, please enjoy the video. This video is a full analysis and rundown of the movie Banned from Broadcast 3, Stalker Hell Edition. Our journey begins in the year of 2003 as we follow Lei Kususui, a freelance journalist who had recently joined the company to conduct an investigation about a woman haunted by a stalker, with several otakus to help her out. While they greet each other, an underlying truth is revealed in the subtitle. This program was a re-edited version of a sheltered tape, a program that took place exactly 1 year ago in March of 2003, but due to an incident that occurred during filming, the program was deemed too sinister to be aired. So without further ado, let's unfold this videotape.
被害に遭っているというふうに感じ始めたのはいつ頃のことですか？
そうですね。だいたい半年ぐらい前ですね。
半年ぐらい前。
はい。
具体的にはどんなことが起こってそう感じたんですか？
一番多いのが電話、無言電話なんですけど、家の電話もそうですし、あと携帯とかにも一日何回もかかってきたりとかするんですね。帰り道とかにも誰かに後ろからつけられてる感じとかがあって。
The victim of the stalker is Nozomi Osa, a 26-year-old woman who works for a clothing company. For the last 6 months, she has been feeling pressured by the stalker. She spends most of her time worrying about this person and what the stalker might do next. As recently as last week, someone has taken photos of her in secret and posted them in her mailbox just outside her room. The photos of her are taken in various of places around town. A picture of her leaving her apartment, in a bookstore, and even a train station. But don't worry, it only gets more strange from now on.
写真。
はい、写真がこれが先週家のポストの方に入ってて
見ていいですか？
はい。
ストーカーから届けられた数枚の写真。それらはのぞみさんの姿を盗撮したものだった。
これの後ろに、なんか文字が書いてあって。
本当だ。
全部なんです。これ全部に書いてあって。
The meaning behind these letters is as follows. Do you remember? Please remember. Remember, I am always by your side. This will not hold too much meaning until much later, but you're free to speculate for now. Nozomi's situation has only gotten worse in the weeks leading up to this. The stalker's behavior has changed to a more direct approach, from simple phone calls to ringing the doorbell several times and knocking on her door very aggressively during the middle of the night. His recent behavior has frightened her so badly that even the thought of the doorbell scares her. We then get a more detailed background of our freelance journalist's motive here. Susui has dealt with the topic of stalkers for the last few years. She met Nozomi through her work when she came to ask about advice, and after listening to her story, she then got an interest in her case and planned to do an interview. However, the story behind why she chose this career is much darker. A few years prior, Susui's brother was dealing with a very aggressive stalker. He passed away in the process of that.
なんかお知り合いに心当たりとかってないですか？
いや特にはないですね。
例えば、昔お付き合いされてた男性とか。
ない
かね。 警察とかには相談しました。
After she came in contact with the police, she felt as if they were taking it seriously. But in the middle of talking, something unexpected happens.
被害を受けているっていう。ちょっと見てきます。誰もいません。いないですか？いないですね。
After the incident, Nozomi is shocked and frightened by the stalker. But come on, there are two people here doing absolutely nothing. Are you telling me none of them could have checked? We then have a chart showing us all the police reports of stalker cases in Japan from 1998 to 2003. A lawyer then explains the sudden explosion of new stalker cases of 2000. The main reason being that more people are raising their hands to get help. Then a chart showing us how it's divided in sexes, victims and stalkers aside. It shows not surprisingly that most women are victims and most men are stalkers. As already shown, we have a few experts that we have to go through, this time talking about their expertise about stalkers, and this lawyer points out something very interesting. We cannot only define the truth out of the numbers alone. While in many cases women seek out counseling immediately after being victimized, while many men feel embarrassed to go to the police. In his own experience as a lawyer, many men have a hard time making a case because they're not endangered like a woman would be by a stronger male stalker. The most common cases are a young woman in her 20s with a male stalker in her 30s, having a one-sided relationship.
時には姿すら見せず被害者に悪質な危害を加えるストーカー。一体彼らはどのような手段でストーカー行為を行うのか。そしてのぞみさんを苦しめる卑劣なストーカーの正体は誰なのか。私たちはストーカー行為の決定的瞬間を撮影するため、のぞみさんの郵便受けがあるマンションの1階ホールおよびのぞみさんの部屋の前2カ所に隠しカメラを仕掛け、恐るべきストーカーの実態に迫った。
Wow, that definitely didn't care. While they wait for a suspicious person to appear on the cameras, Nozomi has returned home from work to make dinner. She feels more relieved than usual having the crew around in the late hours. For a long time, nothing seems to be happening. But at 8:40 p.m., someone is seen sneaking in, posting something in her mailbox. But for once, let's see what the translation has to say. The man looked around and began to eat Nozomi's mail float, as we all do. But to speculate on what he posted here, it is most likely similar photos as we've seen earlier, maybe photos of her returning home from work today. As soon as the camera crew is aware of this strange person, they inform Susui about his presence.
はい、わかりました。現れたみたいですね。
Susui aims to take a look, but she's even frightened by his loud banging and screaming. After he has already left, Susui tries to follow him. He didn't walk that far, until he decided to do the weirdest thing you can do in Japan. Buy a ticket. Even I have a streetcar. Ahem. She follows him through the station and gets on board on the same train to Shinjuku Station. After the arrival at Shinjuku Station, it gets harder to track him down, and after a while they lose sight of him. Susui aimlessly tries to find him again, but he's gone. The next day, Susui shows Nozomi the recorded footage of yesterday's encounter with the stalker.
私たちはのぞみさんに隠しカメラが捉えたストーカー男の映像を見てもらった。
この画面に映ってる男って見覚えありませんか？
顔がよく見えないので、ちょっとわからないですね。
We then have a recap of him posting the letter in her mailbox. In the meantime, Susui has opened her mailbox and hands over the letter. The content inside this letter will guide us in the understanding on what has been happening so far.
どうしました？
It seems likely that these photos has awakened some kind of trauma about this person. Nozomi is not willing to talk about this man, and from this perspective, it looks to be an ex-boyfriend. And yet again, there is written something on the back side of it. Remember. Nozomi agrees to talk about him if they turn the cameras off, but they continue to record in secret. I am sure there's going to be a YouTube apology video later. I will now narrate the best bits of the secret interview. He was someone I dated about 3 years ago. We met through work. After we had been dating for a while, I found out he had a wife. We broke up soon after that, but he was very persistent. I received a lot of phone calls. At worst, I would receive up to 20 emails a day. I tried to ignore him, but then he began to wander around my home. I had no other choice than move to my current apartment. The whole affair made me feel sick. What did you think when you found out that your ex-boyfriend was caught stalking you on a hidden camera? I never thought that would happen. Would you submit the video of the stalker to the police as evidence? I know this person, so I'm not planning to go to the police just yet. For now, we can only wonder why she didn't mention this in the first place. It would have made Susui's work a lot easier, but maybe she was too scared to admit it herself. Maybe she still has feelings for him. Things will only get more weird as we take a closer look at the photos once again. The letters are reversed, which only can mean very poorly photoshopped. For now, we just have to wait and see before we can understand the meaning behind this. We then get introduced to a psychiatrist, and he states, "It's very rare for a stalker to be a complete stranger. Most stalkers don't see themselves as stalkers, but rather victims. Stalkers are unaware of their actions and justify them by having a victim mentality." A model named Liena Sakai was a victim of a past stalker, and she tells her story. And as usual, I like to do my research and find out where exactly this happened. You know the term model? Just to let you peasants know, I'm about to take one for the team. I can now with no doubt announce that to make a story short, it was so bad that at one point she ended up in a situation where the stalker was trying to choke her to death, but she managed to get away with a nice kick to the stomach. And after that, Lena states that he came to his senses and the stalking stopped. Back to the main plot. So after they have found out his true identity, Nozomi's ex-boyfriend, they decide to install the cameras once again, but this time they aim to interrogate him, to make him stop. But since that he has not been convicted in any crimes yet, his true identity is hidden by the name Mr. A.
ちょっとよろしいですか。今何してらっしゃったんですか。いや、実はあなたの行為一部始終を見てたんですね。あなたのしていることに大変迷惑しているという女性から相談を受けまして、あなたと一度お話がしたいっていうふうに彼女は言ってるんですけど、裏の声で彼女になってるんで、じゃあよろしくお願いします。
Susui is of course shocked to have encountered such violent behavior. We then cut to assumingly the next day. It has now been 10 days since they started their investigation. A short update on Azumi. Her mental health is slowly decaying day by day, as she now is too afraid to go to work, likely because of what Susui had encountered earlier. Susui is worried that the police won't be able to stop it if something happens to Nozomi in the meantime. So she decides to call the company where the stalker was working at the time Nozomi was dating him. To get some more concrete information, she disguises herself as a former employee. But the interview takes an unexpected turn.
はい。どういうことでしょうか。
実は事故というか、
はい。3
年ほど前にですね、ちょっと不幸がありまして。
ゆきさん、亡くなられたんですか。
はい。
A さんがもうこの世にいないとしたなら、私たちのカメラに映ったストーカー男は一体誰なのか。
After Mr. A had passed, he left a wife and child behind. Nozomi heads out to the family house to find out what really happened to Mr. A.
ご主人が亡くなった時のことについて教えていただけますか。
はい。全然自殺する理由っていうのが思い当たらないんですよ。いつもと同じように前の日の晩も普通にご飯食べて。
The fact of the matter is, when Mr. A had left his home to go to work. He died in the subway. The police tried to make sense of the situation, but they could not find anything worth making a case out of. So the investigation was called off. But right as the interview is finished, her kid makes an interesting comment.
僕何書いてんの？
新幹線。
なんでそんなことするの？
大嫌いなの。新幹線がパパを殺したの。ね、ママ。
何言ってるの。パパは地下鉄で死んだの。
With a bunch of cryptic messages and unanswered questions, Susui heads out to bring Nozomi the news. But as stated in the narration, something about Susui has changed.
調べて分かったんですが、なんですけど、今から3年ほど前にあなたと別れてしばらくして地下鉄に身を投げて亡くなってます。信じられないかもしれないけど事実です。だからあなたの家を訪れるストーカーがさんであるはずがないんです。じゃあ誰なんですか？じゃああの人は誰なんですか
Yeah, I have to cut it here. It's quite a brutal scene and it goes on for minutes. It's a complete breakdown of Nozomi, and Susui show absolutely no empathy whatsoever. If you're still completely confused, that is fine. We will get some answers very soon.
そしてのぞみさんはカメラの前で思いもよらぬことを語り始めた。
今の彼女の言葉撮影できました。
With a satisfied look on Susui's face, we can only assume she got what she came for. The filming never resumed after that point. Whatever Nozomi said in the end will remain a mystery. We then see a recap of different events in the story, again highlighting the husband's absurd death. In the next couple of scenes, the truth will be revealed. Now, let me take you through what happened. About 3 years ago, Susui's brother passed away due to a stalker. And what you might have noticed in this picture is that Mr. A is Susui's brother. But how did Mr. A exactly die? Well, his wife tells us that he died because he jumped in front of the subway train, while his kid tells us that he died because of a bullet train. Believe it or not, both statements are true in their own way. His wife's description is how he actually died, while the kid's description is a metaphor for Japan's fastest bullet train, at least at the time, called Nozomi. The story that Nozomi tells us is not of Mr. A, but herself. And the story gives us many warnings throughout. First, when Nozomi is asked if she had any idea who could be stalking her, the first time that Tsutsui meet her at the house, she didn't even mention Mr. A as an option. Despite the very intense story that she tells about Mr. A later. When the stalker appears for the first time, Tsutsui don't even try to look for him. The cameras here are intentionally set up in very awkward angles, so that we'll never be able to see his face. The fact that we hear contradicting statements like we can't trust the numbers of this diagram. But the biggest clue is actually Mr. A's name itself. The reason why we don't see or hear his name is not because they want to protect him, but rather because they don't want to show his family name. Because Susui shares the same name, Leiko. And yet, even though Nozomi seemingly killed Mr. A by pushing him in front of the train, this might be a split thing, but I don't feel that sorry for Tsutsui. I feel sorry for the family that he left behind. The thing is, Tsutsui hired an entire crew to do a fake documentary and a stalker that started harassing Nozomi 6 months before the show even started, with silent phone calls and whatnot. I think it would have been okay if Tsutsui only wanted a confession. But the thing is, it doesn't really seem that way. For instance, when Tsutsui finally get a hold on the stalker, he suddenly acts out in violence, just to make Nozomi suffer even more and fear for her life. And how did Tsutsui know that she killed him? Even the police couldn't find any evidence. The only clue that we have is the kid's drawing. And yeah, just like with Psycho the Light's family, we just kind of have to accept that he has some kind of supernatural powers to know all this stuff without ever being there, and probably an infant at the time. The strange part is that even though Nozomi's story as a whole was a lie, she was still rather surprised when Nozomi told her that he was killed 3 years ago. I mean, you have to be kind of strange to be okay with the fact that a ghost was haunting you this entire time. That should be even worse. I don't think there's a Ghostbusters in this timeline. But on the other hand, it would not be too far-fetched to believe that she's just in denial or suffers from amnesia, because taking a life is something that will change you forever. One thing I forgot to mention is that when we see Nozomi break down, we hear the knocking and all that once again, which means the stalker actor is there. But in the last scene, we see Tsutsui rush out to reveal that he was an actor after all. That cannot be the same day. There's no cameraman or any other crew member around. If it is the same day, then why would the actor return? He has never done that before, so it makes no sense to believe it's the same day. So why is Tsutsui rushing out? Well, in this entire section, you can hear a siren in the background. For me, it highly suggests that Tsutsui killed Nozomi in cold blood. However, that leaves with one open question. Did Tsutsui kill Mr. A as well? I think that one is better left unanswered. Thank you so much for watching. Remember to like and do the comments and all that, and hopefully see you around. Before I forget it again, please check out my other videos I've already made or covered both Psycho the Large Family movies and the first movie in this series. So be sure to check that out as well.